Kenya, the Court of Appeal, the High Court and the Environment and Land Court and Employment and Labor Relations Court, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, the Honorable Attorney General and Cabinet Secretaries, board members of the Africa Judicial Education Network and Environmental Law, the heads of the Judicial Training Institutes, distinguished judges and magistrates, senior government officials, Excellency ambassadors, high commissioners, and members of the diplomatic corps, and representatives of our partner agencies, deans and heads.
Have cut down quite a number of the greenery that used to be there as we develop and as we grow. A quarter of a green cover since 1988. We replaced it with tarmac, concrete, and all manner of material that reflects back sunlight and does not cool the city. And so, over the years, gradually, but quite noticeably, the temperatures in Nairobi have continued to rise. The city is now a degree warmer than it was 2 decades ago. We who live here feel it, and it shows up in higher rates of health problems and other challenges that we experience. Secondly, pollution. In the last few years, we have seen a sharp rise in pollutants and a decline in air quality. It's now showing up in our mortality, especially among children. This is a highly clinical and detached way of speaking about many individual tragedies. Every child who coughs, who misses a day of school, has to go to the hospital because they have breathed in diesel smoke should matter as deeply to us as they do to their families. But bottom line is that we are seeing a spike in respiratory diseases in the city, and that is clearly attributable to the rise in pollution and in the last few years, the cause of which many new cars, lax enforcement probably, and construction boom are all familiar. The third problem is biodiversity. Just 2 examples. East Africa is now one of the most important artemisinin producers in the world. Some of you might also remember the cancer initiative by American drug firms in 2017. The plan was to cut the price of some of the more widely used cancer drugs here in Kenya. It is worth noting that one of those drugs, vinblastine, was produced from a plant native to Madagascar, the Madagascar periwinkle, which also grows right here in Kenya. We see illegal logging almost every day. We see encroachment into reserves. We see the land that had been set aside for research being put to use, growing crops. We also see some critical water sources, which is vital to the survival of biodiversity, diverted or destroyed. Let us imagine what Nairobi, this country, or the continent would be if we solved them. Our children would be healthy, our air and water would be clean, our cities would be as Nairobi was, lush green cities in the sun. Every so often, the trees and plants we had saved would give us new cures for our diseases. Ladies and gentlemen, the world is within our grasp. I will suggest 3 steps. First, the legal fraternity understands pretty well how to ensure that these processes are enforced, along with our support in the county government of Nairobi. And secondly, better monitoring of what's happening. While we must think about penalties, we now constantly monitor Nairobi's pollution because it is better to catch a problem before it happens than it is to solve it once it has happened. I would like to suggest that imposing legal duties to monitor outcomes of interest might be one way to get public and private organizations working to solve our problems. My third suggestion is that there be a channel for regular specialized information exchange for these topics. Given the scale of the challenge, it is time to ensure that people who make decisions in government have regular access to the latest reliable information about these challenges so that they can make decisions in its light. This means regular, competent briefings about the regular conversations with our partners across the continent to check progress against the goals of our frameworks, such as the Johannesburg Agreement. Fourth and finally, research. It would be a very good idea for the judiciary as well as other institutions to support further research into these matters. For example, what works well elsewhere? Are there legal measures, legal skills, or other aspects of legal systems elsewhere which are better suited for our tasks? Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to thank the judiciary led by the Chief Justice for this symposium and to wish you the most fruitful of discussions. To our guests, Karibuni Sana Nairobi. Hope you have a lovely day. Karibuni Sana. Asante.
Your Excellency, sir, I would like to now call upon the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary, Madam Anne Amadi, to now guide us with the rest of the program. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Deputy Governor of Nairobi County, Honorable Njoroge Muchiri, for welcoming us to the great county of Nairobi. Your Excellency, Dr. William Ruto, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defence Forces, Honorable Justice Martha Koome, Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, visiting Chief Justices and heads of delegations, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to adopt the protocols as has been established by the MC this morning. It's a great pleasure to welcome you all to Safari Park Hotel for the 3rd Regional Symposium on Greening Judiciaries in Africa. Let me extend a very warm welcome to all the delegates visiting from Africa and beyond, and I hope that outside of this symposium we will have the opportunity to sample what Kenya has to offer. Your Excellency, this is an exciting day for us as we host more than 300 delegates, most of whom have traveled from across the continent to hold discussions on the role of the judiciaries of Africa in safeguarding our environment for the present and future generations. These conversations began in January 2017 in Johannesburg, when a number of judicial training institutes, magistrates, judges from Africa attended the colloquium on integrating environmental law training in judiciaries in Africa. The colloquium was organized with the support of the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, in collaboration with the South African Judicial Institute. And the theme of the colloquium was integrating environmental training in African judicial training schools. This became the first regional symposium on greening judiciaries in Africa. This was followed by the 2nd regional symposium on greening judiciaries in Africa, which was held in Maputo, Mozambique, and the theme was a move to sustainable capacity building. In 2020, to see Honorable Justice Maraga, who made that commitment back then. And it wasn't possible to do it then because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are today very proud as a Kenyan judiciary and honored to host the 3rd Regional Symposium on Greening Judiciaries in Africa. And the theme this year is strengthening the role of the judiciaries in addressing climate change in Africa. We are greatly privileged and honored by the presence of 27 Chief Justices and heads of delegations who are here to discuss the whole issue of safeguarding the environment with a view to addressing climate change in our continent. Your Excellency, allow me to recognize the Chief Justices and heads of judiciaries, all their representatives who are among us here this morning. From the Republic of Benin, we have the President of the Judicial Chamber of the Supreme Court, Honorable Justice Innocent Suru. From the Republic of Burkina Faso, we have the President of the Judicial Chamber of the Supreme Court, Honorable Justice Jacqueline Kabore. From the Republic of Burundi, we have the Chief Justice, Honorable Justice Emmanuel Geretse. From the State of Eritrea, we have a representative of the Chief Justice, the Judge of the High Court and Ministry of Justice, State of Eritrea, Honorable Emmanuel Girimai. From the Republic of Eswatini, we have the Chief Justice.
Of course, we must be mindful
making a difference.
We did not have water. Hatukuwa able to sterilize equipment. Many students didn't get the chance.
we must continue to pay fidelity and respect to the principle of separation of powers. But even within this complex context, courts are still able to point out deficiencies in compliance with obligations on the part of the executive, the legislature, and private organizations and private parties. Focus on climate change continues to strengthen with concomitant domestic and international laws and policies. The number and causes of action for climate change cases is increasing. We need to be ready in order for the trust in courts to be maintained and enhanced. The increase in class action litigation presents new dynamics. Within this process, the role of courts in defining and developing not only the right to the healthy environment, but the obligations necessary to protect the planet. Our role is rapidly evolving. Judges must be adequately capacitated to adjudicate complex climate change disputes. As we engage in our deliberations, it is important that in order for our courts to be effective and relevant vulnerabilities of our continent, massively, and be mindful that there is continental legal framework that does respond to climate change, which we can access. I wish all of us fruitful deliberations. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.